I'm Scott Swan. After the September 11th attacks, Hoosiers from Task Force 1 traveled to Ground Zero to assist in rescue and recovery efforts. 62 members, 4 canines, and 3 members from the incident support team were called into action. They made the trek by convoy to Ground Zero and were there even before the dust settled, offering a hand to all those whose lives were torn apart.
New York City, September 12, 2001. Blake Wallace was there.
Just devastation everywhere, you know. The smoke, there was always smoke in the air, the fire burned the whole time we were there.
The day after the worst attack on U.S. soil, witnessed by Matt Stewart.
It was definitely an overwhelming and surreal and basically just indescribable scene.
And in the midst of it all, Tony Zintmaster, one of the members of a special task force from Indiana.
The amount of heat and force that came down with that pretty much pulverized everything.
All that remained of the World Trade Center was a pile of steel and ash. The surrounding buildings were empty.
Purses and wallets left, they just left. And that was amazing. It was just like everybody had kind of just, disappeared.
Working under the authority of FEMA, 62 men and women, firefighters and civilians, comprised an urban search and rescue team called Indiana Task Force 1. Their goal was to find survivors in the wreckage. Quickly it became clear it was a mission impossible.
Task Force 1 got the call to respond just hours after the attacks on September 11th. That evening, they left Indianapolis and headed to New York City. Within 24 hours, they were working in the debris at Ground Zero.
Working with the firefighters, being there when they would remove, some of the firefighters that were located and stuff. That was probably when it was, the toughest.
Good. That's your bark alert. That's what she'll do when she finds a live victim.
A Labrador retriever named Scout scoured the pile. So did Kaiser, a then 2.5-year-old German Shepherd.
We never said a word. Fireman just came up and gave him a hug, stood there and held him for a few minutes or for moments or minute or whatever, and then just went on.
The dogs almost became therapy dogs for the firefighters and the responders that were on the pile.
Only when they saw an aerial view of the destruction did the gravity of what had happened truly sink in.
And I thought, we haven't learned anything. We're right back in the 12th century fighting the Crusades, where we're killing each other over religion. And I didn't lose my faith in God, but I lost my faith in religion.
But not in humankind. Alongside the bleak was hope. America united, strangers helping strangers.
Every time I'm disappointed in people, I always find other people that impress me.
And in a time of desperate need, a few dozen Hoosiers showed up to lend a helping hand.
You have to be over 50 to get an invite to play softball in this league.
2 outs, 2 in.
Greg Hess says it's partly exercise, but mostly camaraderie that keeps him coming back. It's like the poor at the firehouse. For 31 years, he served as a paramedic and firefighter.
He's seen a lot. He's done a lot.
In fact, it was just 24 hours after the planes hit the World Trade Center that Hess was one of 62 members of Indiana Task Force 1 that headed east to help. They worked in the rubble for 8 days.
If it happened again, I would go back in a heartbeat. I was proud to be there. It forever changed my life.
And unfortunately, Greg's health.
Well, I was diagnosed with stage 3A colon cancer a little over 5 years after returning from Ground Zero. And you would think that most of them would be inhalation, but they've since found out that there have been 56 different kinds of cancer attributed to rescuers who were at Ground Zero.
Hess just received this letter from the World Trade Center Health Program, confirming that his colon cancer was a health condition now covered for treatment benefits.
And they ruled that I've now been diagnosed as a victim of 9/11.
Dr. Janelle Miller is his St. Vincent oncologist.
I would say congratulations on the news. I
Well,
guess it's kind of good news.
Yeah,
you have some explanation.
It's bittersweet. But
Miller sent Hess's medical records to the federal government and says the ruling is based on illness incident rates and not specific agents.
Sometimes just exposures in our system, in our bloodstream, they get to other places of the body and they can increase the risk of other cancers.
For Hess, at least, it is an answer as to why, and 100% financial coverage if his cancer comes back. But Hess hasn't been waiting around for this news as he recovered. You might recall he led the effort to build the 9/11 memorial downtown.
It'll be around for a long time after I'm gone.
That's true.
I get out here and play, and it's fun.
Hess is now 56, but the oldest on his team is in his late 70s.
You're going to be out here in another 20 years from now?
God, I hope so. I hope so.
Fun.
I gotta go pitch.
All right.
Yeah, there's flowers here.
When Greg Hess visits the city's 9/11 memorial with his girlfriend Kim, he usually feels at peace. But today,
Goosebumps. And not because I'm cold.
it's because of the opening of the 9/11 Memorial Museum, a gut-wrenching reminder of one of America's worst days and greatest comebacks.
All the memories come roaring back, and there were some good memories and some bad memories.
In 2001, the Indianapolis firefighter and EMT was a member of Indiana's Task Force 1, rushing to the rubble of the Twin Towers, first searching for survivors, then recovering the dead. There was heroism and later horror.
Remnants of clothing and things like that, remnants of fire helmets that were destroyed, remnants of air packs that were, and you knew that people were wearing those.
People who didn't survive.
Who never survived, who they never found.
The museum memorializes those people and displays the artifacts of a horrible day Hess experienced as both a rescuer and a victim.
They're two totally separate beings.
Years later, he was diagnosed with cancer, the result of his exposure to the hazardous debris.
There are victims being diagnosed every day. Since 9/11, over 800 rescuers have died because of illnesses.
And how have you rebounded from it?
Well, I kicked cancer's butt.
And led the effort to build the city's memorial to 9/11. Hess hopes visitors to the Memorial Museum are both reminded and inspired.
This was a horrible event in our history, but that we as a nation resounded and we rebounded from that, and we refused to let them get the best of us.
This was the scene for days after 9/11-2001, as if it was snowing in lower Manhattan.
You could see the particles in the air. When we shine our flashlight to talk and we had other lights set up, you could see it.
62 members of the search and rescue group known as Indiana Task Force 1 sifted through the rubble looking for victims, all the while breathing in contaminated air.
We know that there was an extreme amount of asbestos. You had the concrete dust with silica. You had organic, volatile organics that were a part of the burning plastics and the jet fuels that were burning from the aircraft that struck the buildings.
Now, 14 years later, nearly a third of Task Force 1 members have 9/11-related diseases. And last week, Sam Scott, a 30-year veteran firefighter who spent 8 days at Ground Zero with the task force, died of prostate cancer. He was 56. While it's unclear if exposure in New York was the direct cause of his cancer, he is part of a growing number of responders getting sick.
Based on the statistics that the cancer rates and other health-related issues associated with those that were exposed to the toxic soup at Ground Zero are having their lasting effects.
Affecting people like Mark Rapp.
They told me I had stage 4 lung cancer.
That was in February. Though he never smoked a cigarette in his life, years of fighting fires and days inhaling that mix of materials gave him a grim prognosis.
This is the respirator that we had issued at Ground Zero.
14 years ago, that small mask was it. Now responders are encouraged to use a full face mask with special filters.
I think about every day how many more people are going to pass from cancer from this.
But he's worried about his colleagues.
Every year, every time we lose somebody from cancer from that day, we're still paying the price.
A price in human life that started on September 11, 2001 and continues to this day.
The day after the Twin Towers fell on New York City,
we'll be here with California.
Indiana's Task Force 1 rescue team was digging through the destruction looking for survivors.
And the biggest thing that was the biggest problem was the dust. So when those buildings came down, it pulverized everything.
13 years later, Task Force leader Mark Rapp was diagnosed with lung cancer.
So I went from planning my retirement to planning my funeral.
And when he found out he'd have help,
holy cow, big stress relief.
The retired Indianapolis fire captain renewed his love of cars as he waged a 4.5-year fight against cancer. He figures the 9/11 Victim Compensation Fund paid about $1 million in medical bills. Is it fair to say this fund gave you a second chance at life?
Absolutely. Because it was a grim diagnosis at first.
About 24 of the 62 task force members who worked a week at Ground Zero developed cancers, respiratory problems, and other illnesses.
We all know that we're just kind of in that waiting period to find out, are we the next person that's going to get, some illness?
Rapp is focused on staying healthy and hoping that if he or other 9/11 responders need help, it will be there.
See, everybody that went there provided a service without thinking a second about what the health risks were going to be. And for it to be taken care of, it's the right thing. It's the right thing to do.